Hi, everyone. Welcome to the fourth annual Grid Summit. Hello. My name is Tanya, and I'm super excited to be here with you all today. I am the owner of Xotm Eventos. Just want to remind you that even though today's the last day, there are still a couple other workshops today, so please make sure to check those out if you want to participate. You can do that in the link to Filmocracy, and that'll provide you access to all of the workshops. Make sure to please make sure that you're following the Grid on Instagram as well, the Grid Summit, to learn more about other events that are in the works. And feel free to turn your cameras on if you want, and to add comments in the chat box while I present. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or at the end there will be a Q&A for any questions that you might have. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I see people starting to pop in. Again, my name is Tanya. I am with Xotm Eventos. I am the founder of Xotm Eventos, which is an event planning company. And so I'm going to be here to talk to you about event planning mastery, from manager to entrepreneur. And yeah, again, feel free to put any questions in the chat box that you have, or any comments, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I just want to share a little bit with you all about my background. So my background, I am a first-gen Latina. My parents are both from Mexico. I'm the oldest in my family, the first to experience a lot of things within regards to going to community college, first one to have a salary paying job, do an internship, all of those things, having to navigate that all on my own, with not a lot of reference in regards to having people older than me in my family that have done that. I also went to community college. So after high school, I stayed in the town that I was in at the time and did community college because just the reality of it is that's all we could really afford. And I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I went to community college for 2 years, and I honestly highly recommend it. I was able to get the same kind of first education that you get when going to university, while still navigating like what it is that I want to do, and be able to stay in my hometown, save some money. And I honestly, to this day, I'm very grateful that I did community college. And I did not, after community college, go to a university. I just decided that school was not really for me. I still wanted to figure out for myself what it was that I wanted to do. Being the first gen in the family, like, was really hard for me to figure out like what I wanted to do in regards to like even know what the options were for me. And so my path is a very non-linear path, from, like the normal that you hear day to day of like 4-year college and then internship and then like a full-time job. After community college, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I just entered the workforce and waited tables as a server for about 8 years, where it gave me, I was just able to experience the world and experience what was out there. While I did that, I got the opportunity to enter into the property management world, as in the corporate world, and as through the apartment complex that I lived at. So that kind of gave me the first time that I had a full-time job, with salary, with benefits, and I thought I was killing it. I was like, this is the dream, right? This is the American dream. And I quickly realized that wasn't fulfilling like everything that I wanted to do. And I did that for about 5 years. I worked my way up the ladder, from part-time to full-time. But again, like I had just wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't feeling happy. Like I wasn't having fun. I was making a lot of money, sure, but I was like, this just doesn't feel like what is for me. And when I worked in property management, I got tasked with doing events for the residents that at the apartments that I worked at. And I had a lot of fun doing those. And I was pretty naturally gifted at doing events. And I decided to tap into that. So while I was working full time as a property manager, I then started looking for ways that I could tap into event planning more to where I could then do the leap from the corporate world to event planning, which was two totally different things. And I found an internship. So I took an internship at late 20s. I was no longer in school. At the time, I didn't know that I wasn't sure if I would even get the internship because in my mind, internships are only for college students, for people who are going to school. And I was already working full time in the workforce. And so I decided to go for it. I asked the place that I interned at, which was a nonprofit, if I could apply for the internship, even though I was no longer in school. And they said, yes, you can still apply. So I applied and got the internship. And I was doing the internship as about, I think it was 10 hours a week that I was doing this internship, plus still working my full-time job because I still had bills to pay. And the internship was not paid. And so I was managing both, but I knew that like it would have to take that in order for me to be able to get to where I wanted to be, which was no longer being in the corporate world. And the internship, I did 2 internships with this nonprofit. The first one that I did was more admin oriented. And so I gained a lot of experience and was able to build a relationship and network with the nonprofit that I interned at. However, I still kind of felt that didn't allow me to tap into the creativity that I had that comes with event planning. So then the second time around, I applied for their event planning internship. And they granted it to me. And so I was able to then start really tapping into the skills and experience that I have as an event planner, and be able to have that now as a source of experience for my resume for then looking for a job that would bring me again out of the corporate world into event planning, which is what I wanted to do. And yeah, so from that internship, I was able to then, now I have my experience. I have like the actual sources that are needed when you're looking for a job of like, they want you to have X amount of years of experience in doing this, to then now look for a role that fulfilled the things that I was looking for, which was I wanted something that felt more, had more purpose and more intention with what it was putting out into the world. Everything that I do, I try to make sure that it operates with purpose and intentionality. And so it took me a long time from when I did the internship to when I got the job that led me to event planning. I think it was about a year worth of looking for jobs and doing interviews and putting myself out there and getting those, and feeling, like it's never going to happen. I'm never going to find this. But after a year's worth of searching and looking and putting my resume together and, gaining experience, I was able to land a role at a ethical fashion company as their actual event planning manager. And so I was so excited. I'm so thrilled to be able to have, this position. And from that position, it moved me from California to Portland. So I had to move for a job. However, because of COVID, unfortunately, I was laid off about 6-7 months after landing the role. However, when I was doing that role, I gained so much experience. I was able to helped them do and put on like a summit that was in another state. I helped plan and coordinated and organized an international trip to to a place that I'd never been before. So I was able to gain a lot of experience as a manager running that own department by myself. And so from after being laid off the first time around, I kind of took a little detour. And from that detour, once I moved back to where I was of event planning, I from that detour, I was laid off again. So I was laid off twice since COVID. But those layoffs kind of helped me see that like event planning is what I'm passionate about, is what I love to do. And I'm gaining all of these experiences from these other jobs, again, from that nonlinear path. This all like leads to where I'm going as far as my own event planning organization. But I then decided, you know what, I can do all of these things. I'm good at doing these things, and I can be my own boss. And I have gained so much experience from these other jobs and have learned like what I do want to be as an entrepreneur, as my own boss, as a leader, what I don't want from these different jobs that I've worked at. And so after that second layoff, talking to a friend, they were like, why don't you just launch your own event planning business? And so I decided to go for it. I decided to bet on myself and, be my own have my own event planning business. However, I still needed to like make my own income on the side of that, because that wasn't going to make me money for a long time. So while I was launching my own business as an event planner, I was also being contracted out to work for, like I have on here, a creative agency here in Long Beach. The reason I was hired was through my event planning expertise to help them launch and put on and produce and execute large festivals that they were doing. So then my experience still continued to grow as I was doing my own events on the side, and also helping produce festivals for the city that I lived in. And through that, I was able to then gain, again, more experience, but then also network to where now I've moved from being a contractor to someone that is hired on full time for a venue producing events and festivals here in Long Beach. And again, still having my own event planning business on the side. And so the reason why I did my own event planning business is, again, COVID happened and I was laid off, but again, learning from experiences that I've had, and also realizing that entrepreneurship is in my DNA. My family, once I started thinking about it and realizing and kind of digging into the history of my family, I realized that my family has been entrepreneurs their whole life. My dad had his own businesses growing up. My mom had her own business growing up. But I didn't realize that that's what it was, because it was just, they're just doing life. They're just, making money to make ends meet. And so I realized that like entrepreneurship is in my family. It's in my DNA. As Latinas, like, especially, that is part of like something that comes naturally to us. And then the other reason was because I wanted to meet my own values. A lot of times what I realized over time with these different jobs that I had was that they weren't quite meeting the values that I wanted to put out there, the things that were important to me, which was like social justice and, doing things for the community, and being ethical and being accepting of everyone. And so I realized that with my own business, I could make sure that all of my different values are being met and also executed through what I'm doing. And so with my own business, I've been able to put on events for my community that I didn't necessarily see growing up be something that's catered to us. A lot of different events that I've experienced, that I've gone to over time, especially now that I'm older, is more catered towards the white community. And for me, I want people of color to be able to experience those same types of events that that aren't out there for us, and also make them accessible for everyone. And so that's why for my own business, the cultura, which is culture, is very important. Comunidad, community is very important. And then also collaboration is very important. Colaboración. And so the events that I've done, like the one that you see pictured here, this one was a kind of like a wellness spiritual event for Latina women in the community of Boyle Heights. And we were able to sponsor some tickets for some of the women that weren't able to afford the price of the cost. We were able to partner with local Latina-owned businesses in that community to then be able to partner with us for this event. And so it's just been really cool to be able to kind of dictate the way that these events are going to go, who we're going to partner with, who's going to sponsor it, who's going to be a part of it, and who it's for. And just wanting to do events that are for us and by us as Latinas, as people of color. And so event planning, what does that really consist of? There are a lot of things that it consists of. It's not just you just plan an event and that's it, right? Like you have to come up with your vision, and you have to come up with the branding of that event. You have to think about budget. So that's where the experience as far as like a property manager helped me, and even just as a server helped me, because I was able to think financially about these different events budgets and what it's going to cost, and making sure that you have enough money. And if you don't have enough money, then okay, finding different sponsors that are going to be able to want to help sponsor the event, and how do you sell it to them and let them know that this is something that they want to be a part of so that they don't miss out on it. Another thing that event planning consists of is suppliers. So you have to think of who's going to supply the different things. Like if you're having a big festival, you need stages, you need signage, you need bathrooms, different things like that. Thinking about venues, depending, no matter the size of your event, whether it's a small birthday party, if you're going to have it at the backyard of someone's house, or if it's like the wellness event that we did, we did that one in front of a plant store in Boyle Heights. Or if you're doing a large festival, then you need like a whole entire venue space to host that festival. And with those different things, you also have to think about permits, depending again, the size of the event and the scope of the event. Like a large festival does require, a lot more permitting and having to work with the city and getting permission and thinking about sound. So there's a lot of different things that you have to think about when it comes in regards to event planning. Having performers, speakers, different types of services. So one really cool thing that we made sure that we wanted to take into consideration and think of within regards to the event that we did in Boyle Heights was we wanted to have a translator, because we wanted to offer the entire event to, yes, English speakers, but also non-English speakers. So we had to then hire a translator and make sure that we paid them for their services, to be able to translate the whole entire presentation to those people that were going to be coming that English was not their first language. And so trying to make sure that you're considering your audience and who the event is for, and being inclusive as you possibly can. And, not only just with like translations, but also with accessibility as well. So you have to like consider all of those different things that, like, for me, I'm a cisgendered, fully body-abled woman. I have to consider the things that don't affect me for the audience so that I can make sure that everyone's able to come and enjoy these events. And make sure that everyone feels like they were thought of, that they were included for these events. Event planning also consists of marketing. So you have to market your events and make sure that you're, making sure that you're putting out there the different resources for people to know about your event. And some marketing, nowadays we have Instagram, that it's very easy and free to use, and even TikTok. But sometimes, depending on the scope of the events and the size and the budget of the event, it would require like paid advertising. So then you have to make sure that you're including that into your budget of having allocated money for your marketing aspect. And then event planning obviously consists of like setup and execution of the event. So you have to set up your event from beforehand, whether it's 6 months in advance, depending on, again, the scope and size of your event, to a couple weeks before, or even just a few months before. And then also making sure, executing the event for the day of the event, and then day of logistics. So I have been hired out and contracted out for both doing like leading up to the events, like from the vision part of the events to the day of execution. And then I've also been hired for just day of logistics. So I am the person that all of the vendors, all of the performers, the speakers, the audience come and talk to and see day of, so that the person that is hosting it doesn't have to worry about those little things, and they can go and just be the face of the event. So there's different types of event planning that can be done, that are required, that are needed. And it's just a matter of, whoever it is that is hiring you, or the scope of what you're doing, to being specific of what it is that is needed for that. So let's go on to the next one. So some lessons that I've learned from being doing my own business, and even just being contracted out, is you will first and foremost still get no's. I have sent out proposals for people that have inquired about my services, and once they see the proposal, for whatever reason, it just doesn't pan out, it doesn't work out, and so they decide this isn't the right fit, or this isn't what we want, or we can't afford it. And it's a bummer. It does still suck. Not gonna lie. But it's just part of what comes with being an entrepreneur, with having your own business, and just life in general. Like, it's gonna happen. You're gonna get no's, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that like you're any less good at like what you're doing, or not capable of doing what you are doing. It's just that it's not always meant to be. I think another lesson that I've learned is you want to invest in your business, and you want to invest in yourself. And that means like, still always learning. I still take courses and learn from other event planners that I know of, always taking classes. YouTube is like the best place you can learn things for free. Everything's out there already that you have access to already. Reaching out to different people, whether it's in the same, especially as an entrepreneur, whether it's in the same field that you're in, or even not in the same field, it's always so good to learn from others and how they're doing their business, how they're running their entrepreneurship, and just always being open to learning more, and continuing to invest in yourself, especially as an entrepreneur. Like, there's different things that you're going to have to learn in regards to like people skills and business skills, and networking with other people. And so making sure that you're learning how to do those things, and how to communicate well with others and with people around you. I think that's super important. Another lesson is that not only do you need creative skills, but you also need business skills. So again, like I said, as far as like being organized, knowing about budgets, being really well-rounded with in regards to organizing your time and your priorities, and also like learning creative skills. So like, again, event planning requires marketing. Like, if you can learn how to market better different events, like those are different skills that over time, with different people that you work with, it's going to benefit you a lot. That's a service that you can offer to someone. And then another lesson that I've learned, which is why I have still another job on the side, is having multiple streams of income. I think that's something that I learned through being laid off twice, is that it doesn't hurt to have multiple streams of income, whether it's passive income, like selling, offering just different services on the side that you have that's like you don't have to really do much, it's just kind of there. Or actively have an income coming in. Like I am still working a full-time job while my business grows and kind of gets to the point to where it can sustain me on its own. And another lesson that I've learned is that you don't want to sell yourself short. So with the no's, like I said, I've gotten no's from just the price of my services not panning out to what the client can afford. And depending, again, being an entrepreneur, being your own boss, like you can make your own call onto like whether you want to bring it down or if you're like, no, this is what I want to stick to. However, also like don't sell yourself short. I think also specifically as like a woman of color, we tend to sell ourselves short and tend to like not value ourselves and our services and our creativity and what we have to offer as much. And so making sure that like what you are charging, what you're asking to be paid is, like equal to what you should be getting paid, what your other counterparts would be getting paid. And like to believe in yourself, because if you want others to work with you, and to believe in you and in the work that you're doing, like you have to first believe in yourself and make sure that they see that, okay, they're very confident, they know what they're doing. So like if they believe in themselves and in their business and what they're putting out there, then why would I not partner with them? Another lesson is, it takes community and it takes practice. I would not be able to do any of this on my own. By all means, like this did not happen by myself. I have an incredible community around me that supports me, that encourages me, that helps me, that puts my name out there in different rooms, and same vice versa. I do the same. If there's something that the offer is there for something that either I can't do or I'm not capable of or I don't have time, like putting other people out there, because it all takes community. We can't do this on our own. And like I said before, making sure to practice the skills that I have to continue to get better at what I'm doing. And the last one I think is super important, is that it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. I have been I've had my own business for a little over a year now, and it's not like this big multi-million company yet. Maybe one day. But like the thing is, it's like it's gonna take time. That's okay, because I also don't want to rush what I'm building. Like I want to do it right. I want it to be done well. I want it to make an impact in my community. I want it to be for a purpose, and it's not going to happen overnight. And that's okay. Like, don't get discouraged if it takes longer. Don't get discouraged if you see others, moving faster than what pace you're moving at, what pace your company is moving at. It's okay. Like everyone's on a different timeline. The way that everyone does things is different, and it's not going to look the same for everyone. So just be patient with seeing the fruits, of your labor grow. And it is going to happen. And I've seen like already this last year, my one goal for my first year was to only have one event per quarter, and I met that, and that was huge for me. I was able to do 4 events under my own business name, and that was like the best thing of the entire world. I didn't make hardly any money from it whatsoever, but I met the one goal that I put for myself within my first year. So just being patient with yourself and with your business, and also because life happens. And then some fun projects that I've worked on within my own business, as far as like my Xotm Eventos, but then also as a contracted person for these different projects. So the first one was the BGT Book Fair, which is Brown Girl Travels Book Fair. So that was, which is this photo right here. That was a free book fair that we did for the community in Highland Park. So the idea behind that book fair that I got hired on to help with was that we wanted for the community in Highland Park to experience a book fair like the Scholastic Book Fair, which is, I think they're still doing it now in schools. But I know that for me growing up, like, I would go to those book fairs and like couldn't really afford to buy any of the books that were there because we just didn't have the funds for it. But we wanted to give people that experience. However, all the books were free. All the books were donated and free. And so my job was to help come up with the vision, the layout vision of where everything would go, how it would be set up, so that it wasn't just a bunch of books thrown and people have to go through them. It's like a whole entire experience. And then we also partner with different schools in the area that then had their students create art for with the theme of like books. And we then displayed these different students' arts in the book fair, and we had different authors come out and read. So then coordinating with the authors and the speakers, their schedules, their needs, and making sure that they're on time and making sure that the mic and the sound system was all set up. And then we also had different vendors there at the book fair, selling plants, selling coffee, food. We had a whole book like pop up, and like the library people came out. So that was a super fun experience to be able to do for the community. That one was a totally free project. I just donated my time to do that. And I, again, was able to decide to do that on my own because it's my own company and I can do whatever I want with it. And so I simply just donated my time to do it because I believed in the mission of the person that was putting this on. The second project that I worked on was Eventos, which that was the wellness event that we did in Boyle Heights. And for that one, I was able to help ideate the whole entire event from beginning to end. So I was a part of that project from the vision to the branding to the marketing to looking for sponsors and all of that to day of execution and then after follow up with all the vendors and the participants. That was an event, super cool experience event because again, we were able to do it in Boyle Heights for the Latina community. We were able to have a translator there that was able to translate from English to Spanish. We partnered with Promesa Heights in Boyle Heights, which is a nonprofit that works with Latina women in Boyle Heights. And they were able to send out some of their workers, their volunteers that do kind of the same scope of work that this program was doing. And so it was just really a really cool and fun experience, especially for me as a Latina to see like these older Latina women, do yoga and experience Reiki and like tap into their inner child was like super meaningful and beautiful for me to experience. And to see that I was able to help facilitate and organize that for them to experience. And that was the first project where I was paid like a full compensation payment afterwards based on like ticket sales. And then also being paid separately for my marketing services that I offered for that project. Some other fun projects is being able to find sponsorships for different events that I've hosted or been a part of. Two of the events that I did, which was the book fair in Rediosa, I was able to coordinate sponsorship from Fierce by Mitu, which I don't know if y'all are familiar with them, but they're a pretty big like organization on Instagram, especially within the Latina community. So it was super cool for me to see that this organization that I love and that I admire and that I'm a huge fan of, then partner with me and these people that I'm working with for these events that we're putting on for the community. Other fun projects is large scale event or festivals. So with the ones that I've been contracted for, I've done, we did an international tamale festival last year. And so that one was about 4,000 people. And so being able to be a part of that from the very beginning of the vision and the branding to executing day of and having like all of these, I think we had about 40 different retail vendors. We had about 30 different food vendors. We had live music from La Sonora Dinamita. So to be able to not only experience that, but then also know in my mind that I helped facilitate and put that on for over 4,000 people here in the city that I live in, was just an incredible experience that I'll never forget. And then also doing another fun project is I helped organize and facilitate and execute an international trip for about 40 different women to Uganda. So that also is a different aspect of event planning that requires the same skills as event planning, but you're also having to coordinate flights and book Airbnbs and dinner experiences and excursions and all of that. Which is, again, something that was super fun to be a part of and to spearhead. And then also something that I started to tap into with in regards to event planning is consulting. So, now that I have this expertise as an event planner, I'm now then able to be hired and contracted out for consulting for other people who are thinking of of doing an event or have questions or need someone to run their event by or through to see like what they're missing. And so consulting is something that I've started to tap into because it's, again, another stream of income that doesn't require me to necessarily be a part of the event, but I can offer my expertise and to help give insight to anyone that's putting on an event. And so if they want to hire me for that, just for a couple hours, just to see where they're going, if they're in the right direction, then, they can hire me for that. So yeah, so then that's pretty much it. Let me know if you all have any questions. I think there were some that were popping up as I was going, but I couldn't see them. So if you want to put them back in the chat box. But this is my Instagram for my event planning page, and then my email. So if you have questions, if you want to talk more in regards to like how it is that you can go about tapping into the event planning industry, like you can email me at any time, or you can send me a DM. I also love working with like interns and all of that. So if you're even looking for like an internship, we can discuss that offline. Or if you have questions of like what else you should like look into doing, either right now while you're in school or even after when you're done, more than happy to help answer those questions. But are there any, like, what did y'all think? Any questions? Do you do decorate party venues? Do you decorate party venues, wedding venues? Um, so weddings is the one thing that I actually, thank you. Weddings is the one thing that I don't enjoy doing. I'm gonna be honest. It's too stressful for me. I have in the past tried to help friends with their weddings, and it's just too much. So for me, weddings is the one thing that I don't really do. I think if someone's like very desperately needs like help with coordinating different things, I'll maybe help with that. That's about it. Decorate. Are you asking like, do I decorate party venues? Is that what your question is? No, I'm not. I think if that's your question, yeah, it just depends on like decorating venues. It just depends on again, the scope of the events, if it's going to require that. But yes, I do decorate sometimes. Like the book fair, I handmade all the banners. All of the different little touches, the signs, all of that. I like did that myself. So sometimes yes, sometimes no. It just depends on like what the requirement is. What was your favorite event you planned? So far, I think I would have to say like, um, so far, I would have to say that my favorite event that I've planned is The book fair for sure, like that was just super special to see people of all ages come and be able to get books for free. And there was two of my friends that are both authors. They were a part of the event, and they got to present their books, and just be able to be there. So that was really cool to like have your friends be involved with it as well. And then also like there was a live mariachi. So like I love mariachi. So to be able to like, be a part of an event where we had mariachi was like, one of my favorites. And then also the latest that's been my favorite so far is the International Tamales Festival. Because again, that's probably the largest event that I've planned so far. It was for 4,000 people that we had attend. And we had like La Sonora Dinamita, which like as a Latina, like I grew up listening to them. So that to then have them be a part of the event that I planned and be the main headline performer was like out of this world experience. And then it involved tamales, which like I love tamales. And again, different friends that I have were different friends that I have were also like a part of it in regards to either they were with their retail business selling there or with their food business selling there as well. And it was just an all around incredible experience, super stressful. But that one did take about like, I think a little over 6 months to plan. But seeing it through and still that was in December. Now it's February or March. So even just a few months later, like I'm still not over the fact that I was a part of helping make that happen for the city that I live in. Any other questions? No, we have a few more minutes left available. Wait to see if anything. Thank you for all the reactions. Do you plan decorate venues for people? I'm sorry, I don't really understand it yet. Yeah, I'm sorry, Giovanni. Do you have a preferred venue you like planning for? Right now, I I don't have like a preferred venue. More so, like I have like preferred types of events that I like planning for, which are more community oriented. So like the wellness event that was for the Latina women of Boyle Heights, that was like my absolute favorite. That's what I prefer to do. Anything that's community oriented is what I prefer to do. Like the International Tamale Festival, that was again for our community of here in Long Beach, specifically like Latinos. So that was like something that I prefer to do. Again, anything that's really community oriented, that is where the target main audience, the sole focus is us as people of color. How much do you make a year? Well, with my own event planning business, like I said, last year I did not make hardly any money. I think I got paid for two of the events that I did, which again, I only wanted to do, my goal was to do one event per quarter. So two of the events that I did, I didn't get paid for at all. And it did require a lot of my time, but I didn't make any money off of them. Two of the other events I did, the one that I got paid for the most out of those two, which was the wellness one. And I think I made about, I want to say it was about 300. And that was because I got paid for my event planning services, but then also my marketing services, which also that required like a lot more expertise and time in a different type of service than just the event planning. As far as like a year, so right now for the venue that I'm working for as like their event planning producer, I'm getting paid, I can't remember how much it is a year. It honestly it varies because it's based off of like the different services that I provide on my day to day, and then per event, I'm also getting paid per event produced, and it's I'm getting a essentially like a commission off of that event, so it's based off of like whatever it is that we're getting contracted for. But it honestly it can vary. It can vary just depending on like honestly the budgets of the people that are contracting you and hiring you. Let's see. Let's see another question. The hardest venue that I did was probably that festival, the Tamale Festival, because we did it at the community college here on Long Beach. And so at that point, you're dealing with having to get security for it, you're having to get fencing for it. Because it was a ticketed event, you're having to then also work with the city to make sure that all of your vendors have health permits and business licenses. So it just requires a lot more little things that you're having to consider and think about than like a small intimate event like the wellness one, where that didn't require all of that. So I think anything that you're doing in regards to you're putting on a large event for like the city and you're having to work with having health permits and paying for those health permits, having business licenses, making sure that you have, X amount of porter potties, depending on how many people are going to be there, security, having to pay for that, having to pay for the fencing, like those things require a lot more. Those type of festivals and events require a lot more things that you have to think about and consider and manage, and make sure that all of those things are done correctly and like checked off correctly. Otherwise, you get in trouble with the city, which then either will require like a fine from the city or like making it more difficult for your other events to happen. I don't know if there's any other questions about event planning or how to get into event planning. Thank you for all of these questions so far, though. I love the interaction, and they're all really great questions. Is everyone here in this room like event planning something that you're interested in? What kind of events would you all want to put on? You can put it in the chat box. What surprised me most about becoming an entrepreneur? It's a very good question. Thank you, Poppy. Surprised me most about becoming an entrepreneur. I think for me, what surprised me was honestly like seeing people like actually reach out to me to do it. I don't think I was expecting to, honestly, I wasn't expecting to do 4 events last year on my first year. I think that, and that goes back to like the lesson that I learned of believing in yourself and not selling yourself short, right? That was a lesson that I really had to learn this last year, because every time that I got reached out to inquire about my services and my business, I was always super surprised. And so I had to learn to like really believe in what I'm putting out there and what I'm capable of, and not sell myself short, so that like it wouldn't come as such a surprise when people reach out to me. And like the different people that have reached out to me are like people that I admire, that I look up to. And so just believing that I am capable of doing that type of quality of work. So I think that's what surprised me most as an entrepreneur, is that people would actually want to work with me. But yeah, I think we just have a couple minutes left. So if there's any last itching questions you have, I'm here to take them. Otherwise, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming, for being a part of this, and I'm excited for you all to continue to experience these different workshops, and yeah, just a couple more minutes. Any other questions? Yeah, I think just final words that I would say is a big reminder is just making sure that like you know and understand that it's uh, it's not it doesn't have to be like a linear path. I think for me that was the most important thing when talking about my events business and what I do with anyone in general is reminding you all that it doesn't have to be a linear path. It can be whatever it is that works out for you. And whatever it is that looks like for you is okay. Like y'all have heard, I just shared my story with you. It's very all over the place, and that's okay. Like it's okay if even if you get into event planning and you decide a few years in, this really isn't for me. I want to tap into something else. Like that's okay. And not like being so hard on yourself for wanting to change your mind. I think especially as young students, like that is something that I really want students to know and understand that it's okay for you to change your mind. It's okay for you to change careers, over time, just as long as you're doing what makes you happy and what fulfills you is really all that matters. And so, yeah, I'm super grateful that of the path, the journey that I've had. And how young were you when you dreamed to be an entrepreneur? I mean, I don't think it clicked for me that my parents were entrepreneurs, that they had their own businesses until I got older. Um, it was definitely after, like, I finished community college, and even after that, that I was like, I once I started entering the workforce and experiencing the different jobs that I experienced, I just realized that, you know what? I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to do my own thing, and I want to be able to put out into the world what I see that is missing or that is needed. So it's really only been like the last few years that I realized that that's what I wanted to do, that was even a dream of mine. Um, and yeah, let's see what else. What's the first step you do when planning an event? That's a very good question. When planning an event is first like coming up with the vision, right? Of like what is the purpose of your event, what you're wanting to communicate, what's the point of it, and just kind of start jotting down those different things that you can think of like, okay, I want to do like the tamale festival. Want to do a tamale festival? Okay, great. What is the point of this festival? Like, what are you wanting to see come out of it? And just like list out just all of the ideas that you have, everything that comes to mind, and then from there start like organizing it into the different categories that it falls into, right? So it falls into performance, it falls into marketing, it falls into the audience, into the budget. And so then from there it's like, okay, so these are the different things that I'm wanting. Okay, so from that, got to start thinking about like money. How much is this going to cost? How much money am I going to need? Am I going to need sponsors? Where would I possibly do it? But definitely the first step would be just the vision of what it is that you're wanting, what you're thinking of for your event. And then from there, having everything just kind of domino effects come from there. And let's see, what else? There were some other ones that came. Do you plan funerals? I have never planned funerals. Not to say that I wouldn't. It just hasn't come up yet. But I do know of people that offer that service if that is something that is needed. Anything else? I'm trying to see the questions that are coming in. Sorry if I miss it. I don't think there's any other. Okay. Yeah, I think I do offer my services. So if you have questions in regards to like hiring me for something, either email me or send me a DM and we can kind of chat offline for that to discuss that. But if there's any other questions, otherwise, I think the moderator, are we, do you have how much time do we have left? I don't know if the moderator's here. Okay. Um, okay. Um, okay. Well, if there's no other questions, yeah, again, thank you all for coming to the fourth annual Grid Summit. And I hope that you all were able to learn something from this presentation and that you enjoy the rest of the different workshops that are left available. And yeah, I hope that this helps anyone that's wanting to think to get into event planning. It is a fun industry to be in, to be a part of. It is stressful at times, obviously. You're planning events and thinking about details and all of that. But seeing your events come to life and be executed and even just after the events, the feeling of like, I just did that. I helped be a part of that. I helped that make that happen. Helping people make their visions come to life is super fun and it's a great feeling. And there's always perks of even just getting to experience the event, even if you're like running around with all the different details behind the scenes that no one else gets to see that you're doing. It's still a really cool thing to be a part of and experience, and you meet a lot of really cool people. You get to network with a lot of different people that are working in that industry, whether it's with sound or with vendors or different things like that. How long have you been planning? I've been doing event planning, let's see, since I believe 2017. So it's been a little while. But yeah, I've loved it. And honestly, like I love doing it. And there are some dream events that I have that I'm planning, currently in the process of planning, and hopefully one have happened this summer here in Long Beach. So if you want to kind of follow along and see what that's going to be, you can follow me on Instagram, and we'll share more details there. But other than that, seriously, thank you all so much for coming, for being a part of this, and listening, and interacting. And yeah, I hope that this was helpful for you all. And you all have a great rest of your day, and enjoy the rest of the workshops and the rest of the summit.